Hey everybody, it's Josh from American Iron Offroad, and I'm here to introduce you to all the products that American Iron offers. Here at American Iron, we proudly design everything in-house in Moberly, Missouri. The system I have in front of me right now is the 1101. This particular system is for the 2018 to current JL and JTs. One of the features of this system is that the upper presses in from the top and the lower presses in from the bottom. In stock form, the JL and JT joints are actually both pressed in from the bottom. So if and when a shaft failure occurs, that shaft actually contacts the lower and both of those joints will fall out together. So if you're running an oversized tire, that's a strength upgrade that you really need. Every American Iron product starts with the foundation of biomechanics, which is the study of how the body moves and functions efficiently. My background is actually in physical therapy, 16 years as a therapist, and so all the design features from a ball joint delete system stem from biomechanics. So in biomechanics, we have these theories of stability and mobility, and they don't actually come together. So if you increase the stability of a joint, you take from its mobility and vice versa. So an example of that is a shoulder joint versus a hip joint. Shoulder joint is very mobile, but it's not very stable. So that's why we walk on our feet with our hips being stable, and we don't walk on our hands very well because the shoulder is very mobile, but it's not very stable. So a shoulder essentially would be an IFS joint, and a solid axle joint needs to act more like a hip and be more stable with less mobility. Essentially, a ball joint delete system is a modernized kingpin, if you want to think about it that way. Kingpin strength with the convenience of a ball joint. So here on the cutaway you can see we have double-ended studs, so it's retained top and bottom with a spherical that's inside of a cup, as you can see on the cutaway. And it's got a seal and a Delrin shim on the top to completely seal it and keep it where it needs to be. With the exception of the Dana 60, which we'll get into later, the ball joint delete systems feature a double-ended stud. So the reason for that is in the event of a U-joint failure or a yoke or shaft failure, those things rotate right up here as the vehicle's going forward and back. So if and when that fails, it hits the top of the joint on a typical ball joint, and the stud and the ball are all one piece in a ball joint. So when it's contacted, it literally exits the bottom of the housing. So with the delete system, since it's captured on the top and the bottom, if the shaft or the U-joint gets mangled in an event of a failure, it can hit the top and it's retained, it does not come out. So that thing is fixed and it's not going anywhere. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the double-ended studs in the ball joint delete systems versus a typical ball joint that we see. So in a ball joint delete system, these two pieces are separate. And in a traditional ball joint, that piece is all one piece with the ball and the stud together, pressed into a body. The lower joint is responsible for positioning the knuckle in a vertical position, and the upper is actually responsible for providing a rotational axis for that knuckle. So in the delete system, the way it functions on the lower, it's still responsible for positioning the outer knuckle vertically. The upper is actually responsible for setting the rotational axis just like our typical ball joint, but we don't have a telescopic stud like a regular upper ball joint. A regular upper ball joint actually has play in the assembly to account for casting variances in the C and the knuckle. We don't design things that way. The joints that we design do not have play inside the joint to account for the variances. We account for the variances in the top of the stud, hence the double-ended stud design. The other benefit of that is after you assemble, you can actually control the steering firmness through the adjustable axial load feature that the ball joint delete systems have by this one single nut on the very top ball joint. By doing the steering firmness adjustment design, you can actually help stabilize that joint like we talked about earlier, stability versus mobility. And so you can actually help stabilize that joint 5 foot-pounds at a time to control steering firmness. And what that does is it applies axial load to the spherical bearing in the top, and you can help eliminate some of your wandering and death wobble even in that aspect. What we typically see on the trail with a ball joint failure is a U-joint or a shaft has broken and contacted the lower ball joint, and that means the whole outer is coming off of that vehicle. In a ball joint delete system, we've eliminated that problem altogether. We've seen shafts break and U-joints brake and it can contact the upper, but since the double-ended stud is there, that whole thing can't come out because we are captured on the top and the bottom. One of the reasons the Delete system is superior than some of the other joints out on the market is we keep it super simple. You do not need set screws, wiper seals, all this adjustment stuff unless you like adjusting more than you do driving. Literally, there is a greased spherical, C-clip, seal, shim, nut. There is not a bunch of complicated little parts in there to fail and wear. One of the advantages of a Delete system is once this cup's pressed into the axle, you can actually rebuild this assembly by not even pressing everything out. You literally remove the C-clip and remove the bearing. New bearing goes in and you reassemble with the C-clip, the seal, shim. You actually don't even have to remove the stud because it's already seated in the knuckle. You literally slide it right back up through and your rebuild kit comes with new nylocks. Some of the benefits of a rebuildable joint is you're not paying for a whole nother ball joint when you don't really need a whole nother ball joint because you don't need to press it out. So a rebuild kit comes with all the internal pieces that you need. For each joint you have a spherical, a C-clip, a seal, a shim, and new nylocks. That process is about twice as fast as actually pressing out an old ball joint because the downside of replacing joints is pressing out the old joints. When you press out old joints, the C hole actually loses material each time. So each ball joint that you put in has to be incrementally larger because you're actually removing material from that C when that old ball joint comes out. At American Iron, we have a no BS warranty policy. If it's under 30,000 miles or 2 years, we replace everything in the joint for free. With your guys' support buying the American Iron line of products, it's launched us to levels that I never thought we would reach. I started this from a spare bedroom in a house that I first owned, so I truly appreciate it. It means a lot. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, or you can send us an email through our website at AmericanIronOffroad.com.